Ready? I think we can call the order, meeting of the City of Sebastian's Natural Resources Board. And we all stand for the Pledge of Allegiance.
Just realized that. Allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
I hope everybody had a nice 4th of July weekend and a safe one. And may we have a roll call?
Good evening, Board. First on our list, Gil Gordian.
Present.
Jim Clifton.
Here.
Rose Glaser.
Here.
Bob Pergolski.
Here.
Andrea Ring.
Here.
Vicki Tunker.
Here.
Ann Lucier. Members who are not going to be present will be Mr. Kirthi Waragoda. He sent an email. And city staff present, Frank Watanabe, and myself, Michelle Stromberg. Thank you.
I don't believe there was any agenda modifications, except for, I think, Frank's. You were on the list. Or was there any agenda modifications?
I don't think so. I think other that we didn't have a meeting last month.
And approvals, yeah, because we were canceled.
So
Any
I think
approvals
no.
of the minutes?
Mr. Chair, I move that we accept the minutes as presented.
Okay. Second has it. And unfinished business. I guess we would have to nominate a new chair. Well, it's a nomination first, correct? On the chair.
That is correct. If you're on that item now, you open the dais for any nominations.
Anyone on the board like to nominate? Now, can you renominate someone if I decided to nominate Ann Lucier? Can't bounce it back on you, huh?
You can nominate her, but if she could decline, of course.
I would nominate myself for chair.
So, Ann, did you accept or no? I didn't. Okay, thank you.
That's part of it.
Do I have to renominate myself then? Yes, okay. I would nominate myself for chair.
Okay. Anyone else? Now, is it
You want to close
voting done now, or is it done in October?
No, you do it now. You close your elections. You could say your nominations, and then you vote on the two candidates. And typically, on a voting situation, I would either raise your hands or do some sort of a roll, not just the ayes, so you know who's who.
And if I did not want to hold the chair itself and stay at vice chair,
You could decline like Ann did. If you decline, then we only have one nomination. There is no election. Again, just to everybody's, if there's only one nomination. There's two right now, but if you decline, there's only one nomination. It automatically becomes the chair because you can't have election on that. That's just the rule.
And just for clarification, Frank, so then Gil, as the current co-chair, would stay as current co-chair, correct?
That is correct. We're not, sorry about that. The vice chair, our annual, going backwards, our annual elections is October. This is because of our current chair resigning, opened the hole. Gil's been great because he was the vice chair. That's what the vice chair does. He steps in. We've had a few meetings. Now it's time to do the elections. Once you pick your new chair, this chair will go on until October, and then we'll have the full elections where both the chair and the vice chair will be opened back up again.
Understood, okay. Well, I'd like to decline the chair and remain chair, vice chair.
If that's the case, then Andrea is the new chair. Congratulations.
Thank you.
So you have to
Switch
shift
seats, or?
Yep.
There we go. And nameplates.
Mm-hmm.
Thank you, Andrea.
Yes.
This is only until October. Thank you. Okay, we should then move on to item B, the champion tree update. Item
Okay,
B, thank you for coming. Okay, we should move on to item B.
okay. Champion Tree update, one thing that was on the last, minutes, and as I looked through those, refreshed my memory, we have some funds remaining in our budget. I didn't know where that has fallen out, and we were considering using at least part of that for purchase of brochures. So do we have a number and that sort of detail?
Yeah, I don't have that number, but I think Michelle has that number. There's I think, a couple $100 still left from the $1,000 that was set aside for the I apologize, the Earth Day.
Right.
Okay, there you go. That's the remaining money that's left.
If that number was good, okay.
I have an update on that. I asked how much money we had in our account. We have $2,500 that we have to spend that we do not have to ask anybody's approval of. So we can get this printed without asking anybody.
How did we get the extra money?
It was given into our account, put in our account. It was put in our account a couple of months ago. It was there for Earth Day. I know. I'm very, very upset with Frank for not knowing that this has been in our account for months.
I'll verify. All I knew was $1,000 was put aside. The $2,500 was set aside for the Boy Scout. I think that was the money set aside for them.
I was told by the city manager that $2,500 was put in our account, and we can use it, and we don't need to ask anybody to use it.
Okay, I'll verify and make sure if that's the money, if that is the full amount. Whatever charges were used for the Earth Day event will be coming out of that amount.
Going back to the brochures, we had them printed in-house, and do you have any idea if any of them are actually being picked up by the public, where they've been?
We have them displayed in our engineering and our public works. I think one's downstairs as well in community development. We don't keep a head count.
Yeah, head count,
Yeah.
I don't see a huge demand. I'm thinking like maybe having 100 printed would be sufficient to take care of us for a few years, probably.
I think they're good to have for these events, so I think it's okay to have, about 100 made so you can use them for the events.
Are we going to have to do that, or can we really get you to do it this time? Because for the last 3 months, we have been promising that this brochure would have been printed, and we have not had it printed.
As long as you get it to us, we'll take care of it.
Yeah.
You have it. I mean,
They were printed, but they were printed in-house because the cost,
but now we have...
initially I estimated a number that was way higher than demand actually requires. So looking at reality, like I say, 100 would last us probably several years. So I would ask Frank or Michelle, whoever is appropriate, to check on the price of having 100 of them professionally printed up and
on
get
nice
what the
paper,
cost would be
maybe?
and bring it back to the next meeting.
On the paper that the city uses for its you know,
Can I interject? Because per the meeting minutes from May, if you look, under Mr. Clifton, it said suggested waiting until the next meeting before we allocate funds for printing professional brochures. We did not have a meeting in June, so here we are now.
yes, I know we did not have a meeting in June.
Right. So if you look in the meeting minutes, Mr. Clifton said, wait till the next meeting to allocate those funds. So this is what we're doing right
And we are
now.
trying to allocate them and make sure it gets done this time.
This is what we're doing, and if you reflect on the
Thank
meeting
you.
minutes,
I
you will,
appreciate
you can
it.
see what's been said and what's been agreed upon. I appreciate it.
So just a point of, Mr. Chair, just, point of clarification. So they have the master, so to speak, the master brochure, and then they just need to know how many to print.
Right.
That's the bottom line, okay.
My
So basically, do we just need to get an estimate from Vistaprint? I mean, any one of us can do that.
Here's my suggestion. We have a contract with Total Prints, it's a local firm. If you want to give us a clean version and then maybe meet us there, so typically what I always do is run one copy, so I know what it looks like, how it feels, you know, before you make 100 of them. Because we've had it where we meant brochures and it didn't come out to be what they wanted to be. And once you make sure the material, the paper and everything looks good, then you run the 100. Then you know for sure you're going to get what you want. That's my suggestion.
The ones we did for Earth Day they're exactly what they need to look like.
So we
So,
can take care of that.
Can we do it, or do we have to have you do it?
No, if you want to take the lead, you guys could go to Total Prints and take care of it.
Okay, I'll do it if you don't want to go down there, but if you want to go down there and pick out the paper, fine.
I don't know where Total Print is even, so,
It's off of Washington,
Off
right next
Washington.
to, Vic's.
okay, I can do that.
I like the shiny paper.
I'm sorry?
The shiny paper?
Yeah, shiny paper's good.
Shiny paper is not environmental friendly.
Oh, well, maybe.
No.
Should we put it on recycled paper?
I'll go and, get the details and come bring it back to the next meeting.
Okay, thank you.
And do we have so how many brochures do we have on hand now?
We did
I realize there's some may have been handed out, but
there's approaching 100
Okay.
or
So-
out there.
About Michelle did make, I think, about 100, and they're dispersed throughout City Hall. And so they are in the little brochure clips, but I think we're talking about is trying to get them professionally done.
Right, so we're, in the meantime, in the interim, we're fine.
We have some, yeah.
That's all I was asking, yeah, thank you.
And also on the Champion Tree, Frank got up with me whenever, I read it today, an email, they're putting in a little paragraph in the city's newsletter, so that will be going out in the near term, so. And that's all I've got as far as updates.
Thank you. And I don't get emails, so I appreciate you letting me know that you got some, because I don't get any.
Madam Chairman, would it not be possible to give an approval up to a certain amount of money within our budget to just go on and get them printed instead of waiting yet another month?
Is there any hurry at this point?
What?
And we just missed the 4th of July, and we just missed the Pelican Island Festival, so I don't see us out and about anywhere to hand them out right now. I don't think there's any urgency.
I would leave it up to Jim. You know, if we have them in stock, we can keep them somewhere. Okay. All right. Are we done with the Champion Tree? Anybody else? Okay. C, the pilot project update.
There's basically no report on the pilot project.
And what was our pilot project? Okay,
To come up with a new idea on the water system.
the water
and
system.
growth.
Okay,
The invasive trees.
all right. after last council meeting, I was out talking, and Ms. Coy brought up the fact that we used to put fish in the canal. It was done a long time ago. Does anybody ever remember that, or that they had fish at one time in the canal? And she, thought it was a pilot project that, didn't know what happened to it, didn't know, if it was a viable option, but it used to keep the vegetation down. And they were the, groupers, are they groupers that you can put in there?
In the canal system?
Yeah, she said it was a
Fresh
long
water,
time
so whatever
ago.
survived in fresh water.
Pardon?
Our canal systems are fresh water, so whatever could survive in a freshwater system can survive. We have lots of fish within our canals and ponds. I know that because I see them all the time. I don't think, maybe at one time it needs to be, placed in there just to get it going, but, I mean, as of today, right now, if you go to any of our canal systems, there's lots of fish, small and large.
Are they algae and vegetation eaters? Are they different kinds? Oh, you see, sorry, my ignorance is showing.
I just know that if you go to any of the, the ponds and canals and waterways, we have, as we were talking before with one of the commissioners, there's turtles and, and a variety of types of wildlife in those waterways. So I don't see this all talked about regarding the herbicides and spraying, because we go out, and I go out with Michelle, and we go pull water samples, and, I mean, there's little fishes, big fishes, turtles, hate to say the alligators, I mean, there's lots of wildlife, including the birds. So I think Mother Nature is doing good on its own.
Oh, okay, all right.
Well, I'm not sure exactly what the discussion was, but there are certain types of fish, like there's a there's a plecostomus, which is an algae eater that some people use for the aquarium trade. Unfortunately, it has been released. We have, when you buy them in the pet store, they're like 3 inches long, and we have them 3 feet long now in our canal system, throughout our canal system. So they're algae eaters, though. As far as vegetation, I mean, as Mr. Watanabe said, there's all kinds of, there's bluegill, there's different sunfish. Most of those are not plant eaters, so to speak.
And a lot of them are native. They're not native to this area, so
there's tilapia that are not native.
You create an imbalance, they say, though. Yeah.
The one fish that a lot of places use when they have hydrilla and other things is a triploid grass carp, which is basically cannot reproduce. But that's usually when you have a lot of vegetation that's covering a huge area. I know our canal system has vegetation along the banks, but I'm not sure that it would be the efficacy of putting in like grass carp. I don't think would be too good with
our waterway system's not even close to where it needs to have that type of. If you've seen waterways that are very well full of algae, it's almost stagnant and it's got growth, tremendous growth. We're not even close to that yet. You know what I'm saying? We have vegetation on the banks, but not within the actual waterway itself.
Okay, thank you. All right. Okay. So, okay, then if we want to do a pilot program, does anybody else have any ideas of what can be done, what we could think about, what we can research? No?
Well, we discussed going to Walmart and Home Depot and looking at the fertilizers and things to see how much was out there that was safe or not, and talking to them, and I have not taken the time to do that. There's so many things that can be done, just like our waterway restaurants, using straws and just refusing small items. The trash after last night's parade, not the parade was pretty good when I looked around, but after the fireworks was terrible. It's just, I don't know how you can make people aware to pick up after themselves. It's like, just horrible.
I went to the Indian River Council, and Scotts has agreed to work with the 5-county, the council, and develop a fertilizer for this area. Now, I don't know what they need special. I know there are some zeros out here now in that middle number.
Phosphorus.
But, they're looking for slow release, they were saying, that's still a problem. And Scott's is gonna try to work with the lady from, Florida, from the, college up in Florida, and I'm not sure which college it was. And they get one for the 5 areas down here that would be more specific to this area. So the fertilized area, I think that Richmond Council is doing a great job, because at least they got somebody to respond.
That's good.
So, hopefully, I don't know how long it will take for them to get it done, but that's a good sign for them.
I saw the county out spraying along US 1 last week when we were having all the torrential rains, and like, at our corner, we're a half a block from the lagoon, and the waterway runoff is right there, and it's like, called the office and no, they didn't have any report of that being done, it wasn't scheduled, and
We actually had other reports too,
yeah,
but I think they're exempt.
it's crazy.
All right.
On this pilot project update, since it doesn't appear that we've got a pilot project that anybody's fully aware of, I would move to take that line item off of future agendas.
Yes, okay, we can put it on a future agenda. Bill?
I agree, I think we can maybe scratch it off the,
Is that a second?
yes.
Okay.
Okay.
Vote.
All right, you said scratch it off future agendas, right? Is that what you said, or put it on future ones? I missed you.
Take it off
Take it off
future.
future agendas. Do we need?
until we have a concrete
and
project.
until we have a project, okay. We wanted to let people know we do have money now, because,
It doesn't take money, it needs a plan and labor and,
okay, so you think maybe a cleanup project, we could help clean something up, is that it? I mean, 'cause we lost the spoiled islands, right? That was our
there's
project.
still a waterway cleanup coming up July 23rd, we can all be responsible and help with that. But, like all the invasive peppers and stuff, I mean, where do we even begin? All of the empty lots in town that people have just sitting are like, just unbearable. I have one across the street from me, and it's all the way out to the street now.
Oh, wow.
So it's like touching the road when not FP&L, but, was it FP&L came through and cleaned their lines, and they do a 10-foot section? Well, everything in front of that section now has fallen over onto the road.
Oh, wow, yeah.
It's like, can we make them responsible for their properties? Is there any ordinance in the city?
We're actually looking into this. It's a challenge between what we have. Our ordinance has to be maybe some cleanup, because currently when we have these vacant properties, we have to then send a letter to the vacant property owners and give him or her a fair chance, and it's gotta go through a due process. If they don't wanna do it, then we either hire it out or our crews do it, and then we put a lien on the property. And this whole thing takes forever and ever and ever. And we have, lots of lots. Will we have it become a safety issue if it encroaches so dramatically into the roadway where it becomes a sight distance, or, you can't see, then our public works crews will trim the sides. But the challenge is when it becomes, from one property to the next property. This is the weird one now. If it becomes one property to the next property, if I would assume it would be the owner's responsibility to trim the trees. Our ordinance has, the side person could chop the trees. So the side person who's being attacked by the trees has to go hire Jimmy's Tree Service and chop it down, so he bears the cost of the tree trimming. So this is a little, it's an old ordinance, and maybe it's had some reason behind it. I don't know why it's written that way. There's some issues that's being looked at right now through our attorney's office and through our community development, and through our police department too, because it's code enforcement who handles the actual citing. It's more convoluted than what everybody assumes to be so easy to do.
Is it just the side of the properties, or is it the front also?
See, that's why it all varies. If it's a vacant lot within the vacant next property, or the vacant lot within the roadway stuff, our public works will take care of it. Pure safety is in the public right of way. But when it becomes the neighbor's property, that's where it becomes all those issues. And if, you don't want to be chopping down and leaning properties if it's not done the right way, if it's not done through our ordinance. So that's being looked at. However, you are right, it is because of the heavy rains, the peppers just keep growing. And the worst thing was that Pinell came through with their cutters and created this huge hole, which then caved the plants over to the side. So now they're all leading onto the roadways, and we're getting, calls on that situation where if you left it where it was, it would have stayed upright. I mean, Pinell had to do what they had to do to clear their lines. So, I mean, we are aware of it, and they are working on it.
Mr. Watanabe, are there any municipal ordinances that you're aware of? I mean, since Brazilian pepper is classified as a noxious weed under the state law.
We have a nuisance ordinance, and this all
Okay.
falls under that ordinance. Yeah.
And I wasn't sure if there's any municipalities that actually do have a model ordinance or something that says if you have a vacant lot and you have noxious weeds on your property, you have to control them. I don't know if there, I'm just asking.
It's not a per peppers, but it's just a nuisance ordinance regarding trees and becomes a point where it becomes a nuisance. Just to clarify something, to Chair, just to help you out, for this, pulling the item of the pilot project, there was a motion made by Jim Hill and a second by Gil Gordian, so I would, you motion and then you take a vote, so that way everybody knows.
Okay.
Yeah. Just to help out.
All right, could you please repeat what the motion is? Michelle,
Similar to taking a vote,
we're gonna take a vote on on a motion. Could you repeat what the motion is?
To remove the champion tree
No.
update.
Pilot.
Until we have
No,
I'm
the
sorry,
pilot.
the pilot project until we have a plan in place.
Remove okay,
Remove the update.
all right. And we discussed it. Anybody, all in favor?
Aye.
All opposed? I don't think we'll need a roll call then. Thank you. Okay. All right. All right, the invasive plant brochure? Is any, Rose, I know you
Oh,
said.
I'm sorry. I have not talked to Jane Chenet, but her last email said when they get it together, she will forward us a copy. And she's working with different groups and organizations throughout the state to do one for our area. So she asked if we would work with her and when it's ready, if we would help pass it out.
I do, but she doesn't know when it's ready, right?
No,
Will you be our helper then?
I can.
Does anybody else want to help with this invasive?
I have not checked with her in the
Brochure?
last 30 days, so I will do that again, follow up.
Hey, just a question, so Jane is preparing one that's, would be most appropriate for this area.
Right.
Does she need us then to print up copies? I mean, if we have a small budget, certainly this is, that, in my estimation, that would be something very worthwhile for this board to undertake. And if we need to help by printing up brochures, $200, seems like, in my estimation, that would be very worthwhile.
Yeah. I think she's working with St. John's and University of Florida, but
Okay.
that is gonna be her request, is that we help out with
Okay.
funding to get it printed and get it out there.
Okay, thank you, Rose.
When I spoke to her, she just kinda thought, why should we both work on this? Why don't we just work together?
Right, all right,
that works.
thank you.
Do we have to vote on that now, or should we just wait until it comes out and then we vote to
Right.
try to?
Because we don't know any,
We don't know the need, okay, thank you. So we could just trust you to keep us updated then?
I will
So-
check with her and I will have to email you because I won't be at the next couple meetings.
I don't have email.
I can send it to Michelle also.
Whatever's sent to me, I can always copy it and put it in her box. I have a box for her. And I can call you and let you know whatever's sent to me for your attention.
Okay, that'll be good. All right. So do we need the evasive on next, or can we take that one off too?
No, leave it on.
And we
Leave it
can
on,
leave it in.
okay. All right. We're up to E, the working waterfront oyster bag update. Mr. Watanabe.
Yeah, I added this as a new item. attached to your packet is the actual, kinda like it was the as-built, was the closeout of our working waterfront where the phase 2 was the marina project, and you guys are all aware of the marina project, which is nice. In front of the marina project, between the shoreline and the marina project, there's an area, of waterway, which when we did the first oyster bag project, I had, St. John's and, Army Corps do a site visit since they're out here anyway, and they thought it was a great idea and great location. We have not yet done the permitting. Since they're out here, I just wanted to get their input, and their input was very positive. So where we sit today with the second project is, we have, a grant coming from the, actually the Indian River Lagoon Council. We have it secured. We went to council. Council, accepted the, award of the money. And this one is a larger chunk of money. And then what we wanna do then is, in a working relationship, we already had started some dialogues with the city manager, with ARC, to help us with the actual manufacturing of these oyster bags. We've already identified these will be bags and not the mats, because the agencies have already pretty much shied away from the mats, and they're all going towards the bags. We're gonna use our pilot, I hate to say pilot project, but our first Boy Scout project as a starting point. We're gonna create like a layout map that Michelle's working on right now. Once we get the layout map, we'll sit down with ARC and see their ARC will be the production people. We would need your support, since you guys have had interest towards it, for part of the implementation as we did before, to help implement it, maybe do some educational components, because this project, different than the Boy Scouts, which was $2,500, this project had $24,000 in it. So it's a larger chunk of money but a lot of it's supposed to be used for in-kind services production, but the production we thought one time was going to be the mats, was higher intensive. The bags are really easy, just fill them up, shake and bake, there you go, ready to go. I think we should send more of this funds into the educational component of this project. Maybe come up with some, who knows what, not just brochures, maybe a video, or I think since this commission is interested, use that to create some sort of a good marketing spin-off. I mean, this could all tie into all the stuff that you guys do. That's how you take advantage of some of these marketing, where you want to focus it on this project, but bring in all the components of the riverfront area that we're trying to help encourage. But there is a large chunk of money set aside for education and campaigns and marketing, which was set in the actual grant, which I wrote. So with that, right now where we sit is, I need to get the permit. Michelle's working on the sketch. Once we get the sketch, we get ARC. Once we get the permit moving forward, I think it'll be good then to bring you guys on board and see what components of the implementation, laying them out, want to be involved, or what components of the educational marketing or campaign that you guys want to be involved. Because those are kind of like the open-end items that I think this commission could easily help out in helping out this project, since it was interest to be part of this project. And I think it's a great project, because it's a continuation of the first project. So that's my report.
And what's the term, how long do you have to spend the money before?
1 year.
1 year?
Yeah, so we have plenty of time.
Okay.
I think it sounds good. I mean, we could definitely get involved. I think in the education part, we could, oh man. We could do a nice, video. You did a video or a PowerPoint presentation, but you did a video when you went out and looked in the boat with the Boy Scouts, right?
Well, someone else did that. I don't mind, once we decide after what ARC needs to have for the actual production, that's the most critical component right now, is to have Michelle finish the layout map to see how many bags we need. ARC says we will need this much of in-kind services to install this, because they're not volunteers. They're an organization that has to have people that needs to be salaried, so the money has to be set aside. But I don't think they're going to use a lot of it, because from what I could tell, the Boy Scouts did all their bags in 1 or 2 sittings, so it's not going to take a huge chunk of money, where I think there's going to be a lot of money left over. And if there is a lot of money left over, I'll be happy to talk to the organization who gave us the money and says, hey, is it okay to expand on the marketing, which I'm assuming they're going to say, okay, maybe we hire an outside, because I know like Comcast will do it. They'll bring in a camera crew. I mean, make it quality style, not this, me out there with a camcorder.
Yeah, I know.
Hire a nice, like Comcast to come in here and do a real professional video that plays here, maybe plays it on, Comcast. Pay them to put it on the air. They'll do that if you pay them money. And that's all considered marketing, that's all considered educational. And it's above and beyond, but I think something if we have the money set aside and we're not using it all, I think it's a great idea. You just get it out, as part of that marketing, talk about don't be litter bugs and do this and invasive plants. You could bury it all in there once you got that camera running.
Yeah, yeah.
So, those are just my ideas. I'll leave it up to you guys. I think the critical path right now is Michelle needs to get the map done. Once we get the map done, we sit down with ARC and the city manager decides what's what. And then once we decide what's their component of it, I could bring back to you what's your component. Maybe have some ideas on the marketing. And I'm just doing the Comcast stuff because I know they're available to do that kind of stuff. And they have professional people that could do it all, not, you and I with a camcorder. So that's my suggestion.
As an aside, I'd like to ask the Boy Scouts, have they been counting their oysters? Have they gotten any starts? Do you know?
I have not. On the first project, just to let you know, it does take. Just today itself, I finally Michelle helped me finish the as-built. This was permitted to St. John's. So if you're not aware, when you permit something through St. John's, you have to create what they call an as-built set of plans. There was no plans at all because they went out there and did it on their own. We had to create a set of as-built plans. So we created one. Michelle did it with their help on their sketch. I just today submitted it and they just accepted it. And so they just officially closed out that project as of today, St. John's. So that's why it's a lengthy process when you deal with these permitting agencies. Just layers of this paperwork you got to submit and forms you got to submit, and that's just the way they do it. But just to give you a heads up, we just closed out the projects. I'll inform, that they need to go back out there and monitor it and see how it's working. I'm assuming they are, you know what I'm saying, because it is their project. But we'll get you an update at the next meeting.
Thank you. All right. Okay. We're up to public input. Anybody from the public who would like to come up? Okay. Nobody, new business? Anybody?
We can, bring it up, but it cannot be a quorum, right? Like the last time. Last year we had that issue, 2 years ago. As an individual, sure, we can all do it as an individual, but we're not doing it as the Natural Resources Board. The other question we could throw is to Mr. Watanabe is if we happen to adopt an island, would the city, and then would we get the city's help, and then we can use it as a, as... It has, yeah. It doesn't happen anymore. Right, and that's, for the event on the 23rd of July, we can, if we wanted to participate in that, I don't know if the public can hear this, but if they wanted to come out, and if there was someone out there with a boat, and wanted to volunteer their boat for that Saturday, on July 23rd. If you think you have them, let Michelle know, and she can communicate with me, and vice versa, whatever.
If not, with the boat, can always go along the waterway also.
'Cause
Just
myself-
walk the shoreline.
Because I'll be using my boat,
Unbelievable how
and
much you can
Vicky
pick
is
up.
also
I'm signed up. I have a
about
team on
doing
my
it
boat
on our
already.
own. She already signed up with the coastal cleanup people, and filled out the little application that's involved with that.
So just continue doing it as an individual?
Right, it's done as an individual.
Yes. Okay. The
And
board-
if people are interested, who do they contact?
The coastal,
Treasure Coast Waterway Cleanup.
It's the 9th annual Treasure Coast
Coast.
Waterway Cleanup, I think is how it's listed on the website. It took me a while to find it, but I did find it. No. But I have a boat. If the board wanted to adopt an island and get a group, I'd be more than happy to tote everybody out there and do it too. I go to islands every weekend. I'm always cleaning an island.
Is there an island available?
no.
There you go.
If you can find an island, I think that we would be willing to do it again, but we have to find an island. Okay. All right. We're gonna have a presentation of the city's water monitoring and testing by,
Make sure this is up. Thank you. I got a quick PowerPoint presentation. This is regarding our actual ongoing, water quality testing and monitoring. This is actually our first annual update. We started the program about a year ago, collecting water samples. Just to give you an educational, Michelle and myself, we actually do the actual, Michelle actually does most of the work, but we actually go and do the testing and we evaluate the actual water samples within the city of Sebastian. So make sure I clarify that. Just to highlight again what the project is, the project was when we purchased about a year ago, some small, not small, but they're not laboratory style, but they were, you know, they're testing equipments. And actually, I just want to highlight again, when we first started this program, Jim Clifton helped educate Michelle and make sure we met certain standards. He has a lot of knowledge and history behind this. So we created an in-house lab with it right here in City Sebastian to help validate our process. We also had Flowers Laboratory on board to do the presidential streets. If you're not aware, when we put the presidential street improvements in, we installed 3 baffle boxes. Of those baffle boxes, they were grant projects. Because they were grant projects, they need to have certain parts of monitoring. We were required to have a 1-year monitoring through a licensed certified laboratory, so we have Flowers Laboratory doing tests on those. And we use that then, it's kind of like our check to make sure how are we doing with our own local testing. And just to give you a high sign, make sure you understand how the water system in Sebastian works. And the critical components is, everything on the riverfront has its own drainage systems. There's about 11 pipes that drain right into the lagoon. Most of those now have baffle boxes. There's a few that don't, about 4 or 5 that don't. We have programs in projects to take care of that. The rest of the city, which doesn't make sense, but it does, the northern half of Sebastian, everything north of 512, discharges out of 2 areas, which is either, 3 areas, which is either the Twin Ditches, Hardy Park, or the Potomac Ditch, which goes to the Boy Scouts. That's your discharge. It goes up into the Sebastian River, that goes all the way, works its way into the lagoon, kind of like a clockwise. Everything south of 512, goes out of 2 sources, the Elkhorn Waterway Canal and the Stone Crop discharge. Those are the only 2 discharges in the entire southern half of Sebastian. So people always says, well, nope, that's the entire southern half of Sebastian flows out of those 2 discharges. So that's how, when we decided where do we want to take our samples, as I mentioned, we are doing 2 samples right now through the presidential streets that are being done by Flowers Laboratory. The rest of the other location, we picked 4 of the critical ones, as Michelle and I have been going out there and collecting samples. We have the Elkhorn Dam is one, Potomac Ditch is the other, the Hardy Park Dam is the other one, and the Twin Ditch Falls. That's what makes all the sense in the world, because those are our critical discharge points. Those are what goes out into the Sebastian River, which works its way into the lagoon.
Okay, so I can follow you. What is a presidential street?
Presidential Street was a construction project where we did the street enhancements for Washington, Cleveland, Coolidge.
Okay.
Of those, we put in baffle boxes, and because of that, we had grant money. We have to have it monitored through a laboratory. So that was a good question.
Excuse me, Frank, could you explain, I'm ignorant, what is a baffle box?
The good question is the original baffle box which we designed, the old one that was done on Davis Street, that was back in 2006, I think. That one was just a debris collector. It just collected the leaves, collected the, the debris, any hard materials, and you have to go out there and vacuum it out with a vac truck. So it's just basically just a basket to carry debris. The new generation baffle boxes now have all various types of filters, flock blocks, ways that picks up and reduces nitrogen phosphates. So these are actually kind of like big charcoal containers, like a refrigerator, that takes out all these chemicals. So it's really a large-scale water filter, it really is. It's just, but I mean, we're talking about massive. When we put these things in, they look like garages. And the filters are 200 pounds. So, I mean, they're not like little, these are large, massive amounts. On an annual basis, we have to take out these filters and replace them. So these baffle boxes, because they're carrying lots of water, has these type of new filters, which then takes out the nitrogens and the phosphates. And that's what we have them up there for. And that's what a baffle box is now. So just to highlight again, here are the pictures of the 4 sites we have, so you'll know where they are. So you know the Elkham Dam, the Potomac Ditch, the Barber Street Dam, and then the Twin Ditches. So these are our major outflow discharges for the city of Sebastian. Beyond the riverfront, these are it for the city of Sebastian. Within that, shown here is Michelle. This is our laboratory we have. This is the one that Jim helped us get us up to speed. This is what we use in-house on a monthly basis. We try to go out there on a monthly basis to pick up samples. And with the samples we collected, I want to show you the results. Typically on a scientific or in a chemical testing, these are all the numbers. Again, you got the 4 canals, so you can see the months, started in April, and now we ended up in, we started in March, and we ended up in April of 2016. We've also finished some since I've done this report. You can see the numbers.
I see the numbers, but what do the numbers mean?
That's what let me ask.
Thank you.
These are the numbers of phosphates, okay? I'm going to give you some averages right now, but you shouldn't do this. Why? Because it's not meant to be that way. What you're trying to do is create a base datum, because you don't know what these numbers are high or low, and that's why if you go and talk to anybody, Lagoon Council, scientists, nobody has a number that says what's, like a meter, what's fair, good, or bad. You don't know, because it depends on the size and the volume of the area you're talking about. Our impact we're talking about is out of our control, really. All we could say is this is what we have in percentages of phosphorus that's being discharged out, these readings. Okay, if you take the numbers of all the numbers, you can see some high numbers. If you actually take a look across the board from the whole year, the highest months that right now for the phosphates we have were in October, September, and August. Those are the high periods. They kind of match the nitrogen, but I'm just going to give you how I know. You just add up all the numbers across. When you add up all the numbers down and get the averages, the average number for the phosphate, when you take up all these numbers, the average was 0.365. So make sure you note that number, 0.365. What does that mean? That's just the average of the numbers. Doesn't mean that's good, bad, or indifferent.
Just one Jim, you can probably answer this, or milliliters per, or milligrams per liter. I always think parts per million or parts per billion. What is that, parts per million?
Yeah.
Okay, thank you. Thank you.
So this is the phosphate, so just want to give you a heads up. This is the nitrogen now. Those are the 2 tests we've done. So you can see slightly different. These are nitrogen. And again, if you take a look at nitrogens, the peak months were August, July, and June. Almost similar. The August was the same month. That's adding up all the numbers across. If you add up all the numbers, highest numbers you see are going to be in August, June, July, and June. When you add up all the numbers downwards, and just if you add them all and get the average, you can't, you're not supposed to be doing this, but just get an eyeball. What's the average of all these numbers? The average number for nitrogen was 1.43. So again, you look at phosphates, it was 0.365. Then you look at the average of nitrogen is 1.43. What does that mean, Frank? All I'm telling you, these are just numbers. I can't tell you if it's good, bad, or indifferent. I'm just telling you, this is now our base datum. From this point on, next year I could say, am I high or low? But continuing years, then I could tell you if I'm going up or down. This is our base datum. You have to have some place where you can start to say this is what our datum is. That's what we're trying to create here.
What is the suggestion from, like, Florida State? What would they say is something that it would not be toxic to the environment, would not be creating the algae? Should we be below a number? Do we have to do more work to make these numbers lower?
They won't comment on these numbers. And I said,
Pardon?
they won't comment on these numbers because it's too early in our data collection. Like saying, this data collection should go on for, you have to have extensive amounts of data. We only have 1 year, one slice. And that slice could have been a good year, could have been a bad year. We don't know until we get the next couple of years, and then we'll know for sure which direction this is going. And not just one per year, per month. It needs to be looked at which, April to April, April to April to April, then, then the total. That's how you can look at these numbers. But just to say, hey, just see where we are. So then I did, we have tests that are being done on the lagoon through a laboratory. This is now done from a scientific laboratory. They have to take it away. We don't even touch it. They give us the results. So this is Flowers Laboratory, and so if you take a look at their numbers, it's the same thing we had it for the last year period. We didn't do as many because, there is a price tag to this laboratory testing. Even though we got grant money, they only allow us to take certain samples after a certain rainstorm. Well, we do ours every month. Their requirement was after a certain storm, you have to go out there and test it. So you see that the tests were taken sporadically. We just don't go out there when we want to. It was per their requirements under what they call their quality assurance plan. We did that. If you take a look at their numbers, and if you take a look at their averages, if you take a look at the phosphorus numbers, if you add up their numbers, just add up the numbers, it came out to be an average, again, this is the average, is a 2.297. So phosphorus is 0.297. And remember what I told you when we did our samples, we had 0.365. Hey, those baffle boxes must be working. I'm just, as an engineer, I'm just looking at apples. I'm not saying good, bad, or difference. If you take a look at the nitrogen, their number came out to be 0.92. Remember, our number was 1.49. Their number is slightly less, maybe because we have a baffle box there that's taking out that's taking out nitrogen. I can't say yay or no, but I'm just telling you the facts are these numbers that are being taken at the presidential streets are less. These locations have filters. My only justification is it must be working. So we're taking out at least that much out of these locations, because these are the same large discharges that you see out of these other pipes. So, and I'm just throwing that out there, these are just numbers. The only way we'll know for sure where this is headed is in a year from now, 2 years from now, 3 years from now. This is just to create our base data, which I think is above and beyond any city. There's no other city that's doing this that I know of. There's large organizations, Lagoon Council, DEP, all these guys that have tons of money coming in. We're doing this because we want to do this. We were directed to do this with the limited amount of money we have. We take these samples. Michelle and I would go out there, and this is our first findings, you could say. You know what I'm saying? Whether the information is good, bad, or indifferent, I'm just giving you the facts. That's all they are. So with that, I'm just going to highlight that was our findings. I'm hoping that this will be a starting point for the next year's presentation. I'll give it some numbers that show you if it's high or low. I think just with using the presidential suite as kind of like our base check with the ones that we're doing, it seems like we're in the same ballpark. The numbers aren't out there in Neverland. And that's one good thing. I do know I've talked to other people and said your numbers are pretty consistent, so it's not across the board. And I want to thank Jim for helping us make sure. I've seen laboratories where the numbers are it's across the board. Michelle had been trained very well, so the numbers are coming out really good. Our equipment's not the state-of-the-art equipment, but it's working. And with that, I just want to say again the baffle boxes. Just want to highlight this is what the baffle box looks like. You can see the box being installed. This is what's being installed at Martin Street, and so you can see the size of the baffle box. That's a 75-ton crane right next to it, and that's a charcoal filter that's right next to it. That's 200 pounds of a filter. Conclusion: we want to continue with our sampling. Next year we'll have some better ideas. Again, we have the 4 sample sites. We continually monitor and test all our sites. We talked about the baffle boxes, and hopefully next year we'll give you a better update. And with that, I'll be happy to answer any questions.
What is the price of a baffle box?
The current price right now, I heard, is between $60,000 to $70,000 a box.
Really?
That's installation, everything?
That's the box.
That's the box, wow.
For
Yeah, so
concrete.
it's more expensive than a car. That box right there that you saw back in that picture right there, that's worth $60,000.
I've got a couple of questions on the data. When we were doing the initial setup and getting familiar with the equipment and all that sort of thing, some of the samples were taken during static, no flow conditions. I was wondering, are these under flow conditions?
These are all under flow conditions, yeah.
Under flow, okay, good. And under the Flowers lab test results, I would question the zeros.
Yeah,
It'd
no,
be less than a detection
No,
limit for
zeros,
the-
we didn't do one.
I'm sorry?
It should have been blank. I apologize.
Oh, that's a blank.
Yeah, it should have been
Oh.
blank. Yeah, it's not a zero reading. It's
Okay.
just no tests were taken. We only take under the heavy rains. They have a certain requirement under the grant money that we can only test for certain periods, and
Right.
that's why months were shot.
So those are no samples?
No samples taken. Yes.
Okay, because was gonna say, if it was a sample, it should be less than whatever the
Yeah,
detection
my
limit for the
apologies.
test was.
Yeah,
Okay.
should have just been a blank line then.
I take it the city was supposedly trying to still get some more baffle boxes, right? Are you still looking for another one?
We currently have been granted a St. John's cost sharing with the DEP grant, to install one at the working waterfront, so that's going on right now, it's under construction as we speak. I'm going after two of the grants for our two of the remaining, locations, one is by Captain Hiram's, and the other one is down south. We're looking to hopefully get some additional, the problem with grant money is there's water quality grants through the state. One is I mentioned the TMDL, which is total demand load, maximum load, is for water quality. The other one is called a Section 319 for water quality. The problem with these grant money is, if you get one, which we have right now, we have these grants for all these projects, they kind of shy away from you to go back into the hopper and get another grant until you finish your current project, which makes sense. You're not, grant hogging. So what they want you to do is finish your current project, get that done, make sure it looks good, and then they'll say, go get another grant. Right now, we have several grants right now already here in the city that we received. For us to go after any of these state or federal grants, they would not look favorable because they'll say, you got all these grants already. Why another city who doesn't have a grant should have an opportunity. So our rank would be very low. So until we finish these projects, we just wait till we finish these projects.
So you said one at Working Water, the waterfront, and then you want to do one at Hiram's, and you started saying one on the south what?
Yeah, the south portion is over there, it's over there by, it's actually, where the kayak, we have a pipe out there. By
Still
the
on Indian River Drive?
Yeah, so they're all on Indian River Drive, yeah. The problem ones we have with the baffle boxes are Indian River Drive, because if you saw on that map, everything from the US ones, actually everything from the railroad tracks. The railroad tracks is actually a dam. Nothing crosses the railroad tracks. So that's your dam that says the water all flows to the east. Nothing crosses that dam, the railroad tracks. Because that was a sand ridge and it's high, and then the railroad tracks even higher. So even when we have the heaviest storms, nothing crosses the railroad tracks. So everything that we have that's impacting into the lagoon is east of the railroad tracks. And a lot of the contaminants, I hate to say it, it's because we have these septic systems along the lagoon area that are not tied into a sewer system. On top of that, we still have other contaminants as well. But it appears that these baffle boxes do work from our numbers we see right now, and so we'll continue.
All right.
Any other
Thank
questions?
you.
You're
Thank you.
welcome.
All right.
Frank, real quick, I do have one question about this last page on our packet here. Working waterfront and the proposed oyster restoration area. Where exactly is the street when we're looking at this last page?
The street is all the way to, if you're looking at it, it's all the way to your,
The highlighted gray area?
yep, that's it.
Okay. Okay, I see the building. Okay, now I'm looking at it correctly. Okay,
Okay?
thank you.
All right. Oh, an idea just came to me about maybe a new project we could look at, and when you mentioned sewers, I'm still interested in looking at the, way that, and it's a county, project, because the city does not involve itself with sewers, it's county, but we could still do it, and I was thinking, the Indian River Lagoon Council saying that we need to do sewers differently. We shouldn't be doing sewers the way we've done them in the past. And, the lady, has all kinds of ideas, and maybe we should get involved in that and find out what the new way is doing it and what the Indian River County does plan for the city of Sebastian, because, and if we get involved in that, we can have a say in what's done rather than making this county say, you're gonna do it this way. you know what I'm saying? So maybe we could go to the county, find out what they plan for the city, and talk to this lady and find out what their new ways of recommending you handle sewer.
Who is the lady?
Oh, the lady, she's at the Indian River, she's the one from Florida University, saying that they, when they have those little things that they have up and down the lagoon, what are they called? Not Milo's,
Kilroy's?
Kilroy's, thank you. They have Kilroy's up and down. And she was saying that, sewer is good, but to have it all concentrated in one area puts too much phosphates in one particular area. So if you spread out and have different sewers, then, plants, then the phosphorus gets spread out. And people at the sewer are over-processing also. That's another problem she pointed out. So, and this all is attributing to that algae bloom that has gone on in that fish kill. And they can predict, using those Gilroys, where the next fish kill is gonna be. And she said, it's going to happen. It's not a matter of if, it's a matter of when. And she pointed out to Texas, and Texas had massive fish kills, she said, for 8 years. And they never understood why it happened, but she said she feels that if we don't do anything and we're gonna have massive fish kills for 8 years down here in up and down the Indian River Lagoon. And these Gilroys are looking and testing. And one of the things she said, though, that we need to do is these fish died with lack of oxygen. It was a perfect storm kind of thing. And they need to be able to get oxygen into the water, because if they can then oxygenate the water, the fish wouldn't die. So they're looking, I think, to try to find somebody who will help oxygenate the water. But the algae blooming, the fresh water coming in, the temperature rising, all made the oxygen level of the water, when it gets warmer, it has less oxygen. So they was saying they just need to be able to get oxygen in. But they also need, every little bit helps. So if we can not have the phosphorus coming at a very high level at a particular point, it would help. So I don't know if the board would be interested in looking into sewer and finding out what the county has in plan, because the city doesn't do it, it's county. So we're allowed to go into county. Our little thing allows us to go into governmental.
Mr. Watanabe, I think, can answer some of it. There is currently a sewer line in parts of the city that was that the county actually constructed, is that correct?
The county, right, from what we know from the county's utility services, they are right now pushing their gravity sewer line project. They came to us, hoping that we would help pay for we kind of co-shared the design, but then when it came to the implementation, now you're talking about millions of dollars. We felt that the county, who receives, utility fees, that they should pony up their own money to pay for the utility line, which they are doing. They're moving forward. The money they need to do the entire system is way more than what they want to spend, so they're hoping to see other options. But right now they're moving forward with the final design and maybe implementing a small portion of this gravity project. Currently, right now, if you're not aware of it, we have a sewer line, but it's a force main line. That means it's under pressure. That means if you want to tie to it, that's where the people don't want to go into it. It's when you want to tie to a gravity-fed pressurized line, you have to have a grinder pump and you have to have those to pressurize it. So now it doesn't come a cheap, gravity, flushing the toilet. It becomes you got to buy this $30,000 to $40,000 to $50,000 to $60,000 system to hook up to it, and that's where the people goes, forget it. I'll go back to my leach fields and my septic tank, and I'll just keep fixing that until such time, Mother Nature makes it go bye-bye. But that's the reason why we don't have a lot of takers. We currently, that's the county's plan is to install this gravity-fed line so more people would jump on it, preferably commercial. That's their push for the utilities department. In addition to that, the city has this joint process right now where if you come on board and connect, we would pay a portion of it, $5,000. We've given out some larger ones to other organizations, but that's what our rule is. We just won a grant now from the Indian River Lagoon that will match us another $100,000. We put $100,000 a year. They now will match us another $100,000, so now it'll be $10,000. So maybe that's a lot more palatable for someone who wants to hook up to the system. May not be, because again, the cost of the system is still up in the 30 to 40 to 50. It's not going to be a freebie. You may get some takers, but maybe not a lot of takers. We don't know until the grant kicks in. We start offering 10,000 instead of 5,000. Maybe that'll make it a little bit better. That's what we have a code project with the county on the sewer system. Again, this is not cities' utilities, it's Indian River County Utilities. We gave that away a long time ago. Their only project they have is this gravity-fed sewer system. And that's what they're pushing right now from the riverfront area.
So I'm really ignorant of the difference. I understand, you said the force main system is more expensive to hook to?
The force main is there because right now you have certain commercials that it has to be tied, it has to have sewer. So we have a force main that goes all the way up into Roseland, so there's a force main there. To hook up to it, you have to have a grinder pump and a system to tap into it.
To push into it, yeah.
Push into it, and that's when the prices jump up. And so if you're a single-family home that says, I have a septic system that costs me a couple $1,000 and it costs me a couple $100 to clean up, why do I want to spend $50,000 when I got a system already working? Oh, and in the same sense, once I hook up to the system, now I got to pay a service fee, even though it may be very little. If you're a common person who's struggling right now with an income, that's a no-brainer. They're not going to switch. The incentive's not there until such time we say we'll pay for the entire cost of the installation, and it's a zero charge. And that's where the county's saying once they have a gravity-fed line, that's what it's going to be, it's zero charge, like everybody else. Just hook up to it, flush, we'll give you a couple $100 for your monthly service fee, happy, and then I think more people will jump onto it. That's where they're trying to promote this gravity line system, but it takes time, takes money, and it takes a lot of money to install it all, because none of it's in right now. Only a very few links are in right now for gravity systems. So that's the biggest hit.
And there's a lot of people in the city of Sebastian who need to be on sewer. If you have less than 5 septic tanks, I think, to the acre, you see, I'm trying to get the statistics. Less than 5 septic tanks to an acre, you don't need to go on sewer. You can stay on your septic. So most of the city would not even need to think about going on sewer. The only people that we need to look at are people whose current septic tanks and fields are below or at water level. We need to get those people.
And again, that's what the issue is. Everything along the riverfront, and I'll tell you this, everything, because we've done enough construction, you go 3 feet down, water starts pumping. So in other words, all those leach fields, all of them are infiltrated with water. There's no way, because we've done enough construction up and down the riverfront, within 3 feet, water comes in, river water comes in, starts bleeding in. And so and every leach field we have out there is deeper than 3 feet. So, there is saturation. So when you hear these stories, I'm not sure about Vero, or I know Sebastian, been doing your engineer for 10 years now, within 3 feet, you hit water. It starts pumping in. And so all those homes, all those businesses, anyone who has a leach field, it's getting bled into the system. But, that's how it's been for a long time. Good, bad, or difference, who knows?
Can we start thinking about doing something about it? I'm sorry, go ahead.
No, I think, and I don't know of there aren't any rules and regulations for septic systems, I don't think either, as far as the homeowner goes, we lived up north and we lived on the lake. We would get a notice from the septic company to tell us it was time for us to pump our septic system. We had to do it every 3 years. If we did not do it, and then it went right to the state, and then the state would be out fining you. I mean, you had to do it. You didn't have a choice, but it kept people doing the right thing. They didn't like it, but...
The problem was our ordinance when we had again, sometimes it doesn't catch up. When we had the utility system, it was ours at one time, a long time ago, we had an ordinance that says in the future, who wrote it was smart, in the future, once we have a system, you shall, the word was shall, hook up to the system. The moment we gave that away to the county, that ordinance didn't go with it.
No.
So now we have this connection where there's no way for them, they don't have a stick. We had the stick, and once we gave it away, we should have gave away the stick as well, but it didn't go with it. And so now there's this disproportion where the individual homeowners, that shall is not there, so they're not going to do it. So that's where we're in this huge dilemma right now. If we would still have the utilities and maintained it, our law says you shall hook up, but we don't own it anymore. So that went away with the utility system. That was a decision made a long time ago.
So just for my own education, gravity I mean, I understand the concept of gravity-fed system, but it's cheaper to hook up, but you still have to have the fall. I mean, you still have to have, in other words, the slope from the house to the main at the street, I assume.
Yeah, and a gravity-fed system is gravity. So what happens is, eventually you have to get to a lift station point because
right,
we're not,
so you need
we're
a
not all
lift
sitting on a
station.
mountain.
Right.
So eventually there's a point where it gets to a lift station, it pumps it back up, and it drops it back down. It pumps it back up, it drops it back down. But that's all figured within the system. The individual homeowner only thing he has force is that little flush takes care of it, and then you're good to go.
Do you think the city would ever adopt an ordinance to require people to maybe have their septic systems pumped every year?
See, the problem is, again, that part is that gray area, is that utilities now that we're not responsible for. See, that's what happens when we start, we have to mandate if you have a septic system to the county health department. That's actually through the county health department. Okay. So you have another agency involved, the county health department, who decides where it goes, how high, all this stuff. And they've been, if you've noticed lately, have you seen the new homes are getting higher and higher?
Yeah, they are.
Their issue is because they're afraid you're tapping into the water systems. So if before when I first came here, the pads are about 3 foot high. Pads are now, you see them, they're 6, 9 foot high. I mean, it's up there. That's the county health department saying that's where your finished floor elevation is going to go. And then the neighbors kind of going, is this a 2-story house? Because the pad's so high up there.
Yeah.
And you drive around, they're everywhere. And that's the health department. That's not even us.
Well, maybe we can do some research and bring some back. I don't know. Would you be interested in doing?
Sure.
No?
No, I said yes, sure. That's Boston accent, sure.
Okay. All right, so we can have a septic update. I'm gonna talk to the Indian River County and ask them what their new stuff is. If you're gonna talk to the Indian River County, I'll go talk and ask the lady what the new way of doing it is gonna be, because they're saying they want to make them more local.
And I'll give you the contact. His name is Vincent Burke. He's the Director of Utilities. We'll send you that information. So I think it's good that someone from this commission goes and talks and gets an update. But his name is Vincent Burke. He's the director.
All right, thank you. All right. We're up to staff matters.
I have one. I just wanted to let you guys know and give you the opportunity if you wanted to. In August, FWC, Mr. Alex Kaplan will be coming down to do a gopher tortoise workshop. And
What did you say?
this is going to be in August 18th from 9 to 12. And I didn't know if that's something you all would like or individually would like to attend. I just wanted to give you the opportunity.
To help, this is the official wildlife training class. I took this a while back when I first got here. It's a very good class to take. What Michelle's saying, if you want to take this training class, this individual is we have it, Michelle did a great job. This person's coming here. Typically you have to travel to like some weird place and they have these training classes. Michelle was able to make us the home base, so they're going to come here and do the training. So what you have to do is, and then you continue, Michelle, is.
So if you're interested, let me know if I can get your information and I can provide it to Alex, and then he will register each person individually and send you information.
Does it cost anything?
No, it's no cost, but you have to go through their system to get registered. The reason why is because you get a certification. They train you on stuff, so you get the certification training. I think it's very good to have, and you'd be surprised about what you thought about gopher tortoise. I didn't know, and then you went to this training class. You'd be amazed.
I'm gonna go.
Yeah.
August 18th? Okay.
Yeah.
I'll sign up.
I think we have a few takers, yeah.
Okay. I think it'll be very informative. I mean, we have a lot of gopher tortoises here.
Did you say the 18th or the 16th?
It will be August 18th between 9 and 12. So,
Okay, I'll get the information from you.
yeah.
You can put it in my box.
We are also inviting the other, the reason why we're doing it here is, we're gonna invite like City of Vero Beach, City of Ellesmere, the county, the Indian River Lagoon, all the agencies, because like saying, typically you have to drive a good distance. When I took the class, I had to drive up to Orlando, because it's Fish and Wildlife, they don't give training classes nearby, they do a few, so I think it's very beneficial for the local agencies to attend this, since they're gonna be here.
Who is the instructor?
His name is Alex Calvin, and he's new. There wasn't an instructor for a while. We've been kind of just staying in touch with FWC, and he came on board. So whoever's interested, you give me your information, and I'll get it to him, and he'll contact you, and there we go.
Be gone.
Huh?
I'll be gone.
Oh.
All right.
Well, Michelle, I can tell you right now, you can put my name down and
Okay.
email him, my email.
Okay,
All right, thank you.
no problem.
Frank?
I have one more question. Michelle, you know, was I made a permanent member of the board, taking George Malat's place? Do you know I applied for that? Through the city council, and I haven't heard anything.
I'm sorry, I didn't hear, you applied for Mr. Millar's position? Okay,
From alternate, yeah.
From alternate to regular.
okay, I believe that information probably went to the clerk's office, so I'll verify. Okay.
He contacted me and asked me if I was interested in doing that.
Okay, okay, I'll talk with her tomorrow and see where that is and get back to you on that. No.
I have one more question also from Michelle. This certification for the gopher tortoise, what does that certification enable you to do?
I would need to get that information from Alex to be
Okay.
sure. I don't wanna say
You-
anything.
You're not certified to remove them, how's that?
I think
I
it's
just wanted to make that clear.
I think it's more of like an educational workshop.
Okay.
I'll find out more detail, but either way, it'll be very informative and good for us, 'cause, where we are here.
Very good. All right, thank you.
Okay, I don't know if this is the proper time to bring it up, but, that gentleman whose name I cannot pronounce.
Kirthi Waragoda, I believe.
Yes. He hasn't been here, he's still not in country. I don't know, I would think we should remove his name from the roll, and I'll give you my reason why. The last the last council meeting I went to, another board member stood up and said, if I miss 3 meetings, I'm out. So all the other boards say, you miss 3 meetings, you're out. We've given him an exception, and we have voted on giving him the exception. I think maybe that was a dangerous precedent to, say, and I want your opinions, and want to know if you think we should keep giving him the exception, or should we take him off the roll? Because, the other boards say 3 meetings, you're out.
Michelle can maybe correct me, but I think we have a rule that if you have 2 unexcused absences in a year, then you could be removed from the board, is that correct?
I need to check on that. I know that every month he has been emailing saying, sorry, not gonna be here, and so I need to check into that. And I know he's an alternate, so I don't know how that plays a part.
Yeah, the clarification is 3. I talked to the clerk's
Okay.
office, there's 3 excused
Right.
beyond that.
I think he's beyond
So,
the
so
third
just a
excuse.
point of order, Madam Chair, so our rules are unexcused, so you're, just for everybody's edification, 3 unexcused absences, and you could be removed. If you email Michelle and say you're not gonna be here, as I guess this gentleman has, then it's not counted as one of the 3. Is that correct?
That is correct. No different than any other boards or even the city council. If you get excused and the board accepts it, by accepting you've now authorized it. It's when it becomes unexcused.
Okay, should we change it to, because I thought it said 5 months. He's been gone 6 months and he's still not back. It's all, you know, I don't know.
Well, I'm not sure, I guess the question, this would be for staff, I don't know if we have the authority to remove someone from the board or the city council appoints them. I think that's the city council's responsibility or role.
I think the city council's role is to, as you mentioned, is to appoint them and unappoint them. However, I think if the commission or board feels that the chair is mentioning is, and I agree to the point where if that person's not here after so many meetings, even if it's excused, you may start saying, we don't accept it anymore, and then I think if you do that a couple times, that becomes now 3 unexcused, even though he asked for it, you didn't accept it. If you got 3, I think you follow that rule, and out he goes. I mean, that's how I read the rules. So you could make the decision as a board. It doesn't, I don't think that has to go to council, and I think the clerks, I'll verify it through the clerk's office, but I think that's a fair enough way, and gives him a chance, but if you don't accept 3 of his excuses, he has 3 unexcused, should not be here.
Okay.
What was his original, I mean, he made an agreement with somebody about not being here for a certain period of time for some reason, or?
I don't know, it was, George Millar, the chair at the time, said he wanted to give him, I don't know, I thought it was 5 excused absences.
Yeah, he had some other, work, I mean, it does, he had other work, I think George gave him kinda like an okay, and it's been going, I think, beyond that. So I think if this new board and the new chair has a feeling towards, if you're not gonna be here, to not accept those excuses, and his justifications, you could do that and not accept them.
Okay, all right, so this is 1?
Well, if you wanna propose and we vote on it.
Oh, okay. I make a motion that we not accept his name
Mr. Kathy Waragoda.
as, excused absences, we make his absences unexcused,
Okay,
okay?
so that would leave the alternate position open after.
But this is
voted
the
on.
first,
And then is there a second?
yeah, this is the first one, yeah. Yeah,
Okay.
you gotta give him.
We need a second, right,
But-
Sue? Do we need a motion and a vote on it, or? Right, this is just the first time.
So October, when we do the new.
When we could do everything new, sure, okay.
Actually, that'd be nice, you're right, with the new, yeah, perfect.
I would second that motion as long as we all understand that this would essentially would be his first unexcused absence, and then as you said, Ann, it would be, we have to give him 2 more months, and then if October, if he doesn't show up, then we could pick a new, or recommend that we pick a new, board member.
Is there not a reason we could reach out via email or whatever to,
He's out of country.
email goes all over the world.
He's in Bangladesh, right?
I think Michelle will make sure he's informed of what direction this is going, and it's up to his own due diligence. If he can't make it here, then he really needs to decide.
He may remove himself
Yeah,
automatically,
exactly,
that's what I'm
exactly.
saying.
Yeah, 'cause this position is an alternate, so, I mean, we can open that back
I
up.
just thought it was a dangerous precedent, that's all. All right,
Members matters?
all right, members matters, can we, would you wanna start with a member, Brenda?
I have nothing.
Gail?
I have one question about the festival over the weekend with all the trucks and trailers in the park. Has the city decided against keeping them out?
I wasn't aware. I'll make sure, I'll talk to the city manager. I think a lot of the vehicles were used in the park was probably for staging. I know we had some of the equipment out there, some of the golf carts out there. I'll find out why all the vehicles, we have a new, policy that says you're not supposed to have vehicles in the park.
All the food vendors were parked in the park and
Yeah, again,
there were
maybe,
more food vendors than there were vendors, and when I drove by on my break on Saturday, I counted over 17 pickup trucks and trailers in the park.
and I think maybe, I heard at one time for this event and for the clam bake, they're gonna allow it, so that has to be passed on to everybody.
I was in the city
Yeah.
council meeting when they said that
Uh-huh.
city events were going to be allowed, and that's when I stood back up and questioned if the Natural Resource for Earth Day is not a city event.
It is, that's what I'm saying, I think it needs to have a clarity in terms of what are the requirements? This is still a work in process, you guys. I mean, I think the intent was to try to get those vehicles off the park grass, make it look a better park. During these big events, you know, when we have so much things going on, you know, the vendors wanna find a better place, and maybe that's what they did, they
We
compromised.
had more vendors than the Fourth of July festival had.
And maybe next year they were, I'll find out.
Okay.
I don't know.
I was really
I'm
surprised.
just a messenger, I don't know, yeah.
Yep.
I was really
I'll find
surprised
out.
too that the band shell was moved to the center of the park.
I was surprised
So
too.
they had to go across the
Usually,
sidewalk.
yeah, usually we have a stage in a certain area 'cause it's got it's set up for that. And it was
Right.
flipped the other way around, which we were told never to do. I was
So it
surprised.
was over the sidewalk
Yeah.
and.
So I'll find out.
Frank, one of the last concerts too in the park, all the food vendors except New York Nick, he was the only one out in the street because he was the one that we had that said you had to park in the street. He was mad.
It'd be fair for all, so I'll get you the
Yeah.
information. I'll find out.
Any? Okay, I have one matter that, has caused me, concern, and it had to do with last board meeting. And, I wanna read this so that I stay on track. I arrived 15 minutes early for the last June board meeting here, and for the scheduled time of 6 p.m., and I was told that the, meeting was canceled due to a lack of quorum. When I questioned the fact that lack of quorum can be determined ahead of the actual meeting time, Mr. Watanabe told me that the, city, that Jew people had emailed him saying that Jew would not be coming. And even if you sent emails, I felt we should still have, held the meeting to determine if a quorum could be met. The building was not locked, the building was locked and I was not let in the building. And, Mr. Watanabe told me that emails were sent out to you all earlier in the day, canceling the meeting. Okay? I was told that city council was very upset we did not meet. They expected us to meet and we did not meet. So I have two questions. One, can you determine and call it a lack of quorum when there was no meeting to begin with? And two, if you received emails saying that the meeting was canceled, we need to stop this from happening again.
Okay, I think the email I received for it, or at least I didn't see the email until like 4:30. I was prepared to come. So.
I was prepared to come. I took off work at 5 o'clock so I could go home and shower and get here at a better time than I
I know
normally do.
somebody that wasn't
I
gonna
read
be
the
able to
email
make it because
after I
of the
got
car
home.
trouble.
I was one of the absentees.
You would,
There
pardon?
you go. We couldn't have had it. So we couldn't
Did
have had
you
it.
email and let them know that you were not gonna be there, or were you just gonna not show up?
I think all three of us did, yeah.
So that's how they knew
Okay,
they wouldn't
you
have a
know
quorum.
that is a sunshine law violation.
A what?
Emailing Michelle?
Yes. You're not
So
supposed
what?
to email at all.
I thought that,
No.
no.
She is
Let me clarify. The email is between, a dialogue between yourselves,
members.
members. You can always email staff and let us know if you won't be here.
We could have still had a quorum. There were 5 of us that were gonna show up.
No, there was only gonna be
No, there
3.
wasn't. One.
You won,
What we have
2,
here.
3, Barbara's gonna be here.
Actually, I sent Michelle an email mid-afternoon because I was stuck in West Palm Beach and I couldn't be here. And I did copy at that point, I also copied Mr. Millar just to let him know as the chair that I didn't realize he wasn't gonna
Right.
be here, but I copied him as the chair that, I couldn't be there. And I have to say that mine was fairly late. It wasn't 5 o'clock, but it was probably early afternoon because I was stuck at a meeting in West Palm Beach. So and I'm be happy to, if that is not the right process,
Andrea?
Andrea, that's fine, it'll, just as long as we're all clear, because that was the process that we used in the past is, I've always, for me at least, I've always sent Michelle and then copied the chair that I wasn't gonna be there in a particular meeting.
How else would you get your excused absence
Right.
if you don't alert somebody ahead of time? And to me, it's
That's a
Well,
good
I would have a moral
question.
obligation to let someone know.
That's a good question. I
polite.
really need to find that
Michelle's
answer
our
out.
go-to. She's staff.
She's our go-to person, yeah.
Yeah.
But the emailing should not be done. You're not supposed to email.
Member to member, we're not supposed to email. We are allowed to email staff, and that's what we should be doing.
So
Somebody
I
has to
can't
know what's
email
going
you.
on.
Question then should have been, we should have held the meeting anyway.
No,
You
there was
should
only
have-
3 people.
There wasn't enough members for a quorum even, that last meeting.
Right, for June.
Okay, then.
Okay. Case closed.
I just wanted to let you know, city council was very upset that we did not meet
There's nothing you can do if people are sick and they can't make it there.
and make it.
Especially if the meeting's canceled.
Well, yeah, I don't get email.
I was already home from work and lost an hour of work.
I know, and you were planning on coming.
As was
That
I.
just happens. Nothing can be done
Right,
about it.
email.
It was just an incident.
Okay. We need to stop this from happening again. I think maybe we should ask staff not to cancel meetings. You can't cancel a meeting until the 6 o'clock meeting time. Because what do
They
you do
already
with the
knew.
public? What do you
They
do with
already
the
knew
public?
that the people weren't coming.
But that's okay, you should still hold the meeting, that I should have been allowed in, and the public should have been told why the meeting, but I should have been allowed in, you should have been allowed in if you showed up. You can't cancel the meeting ahead of time, because what are you gonna do to stop it from happening again? And city council was very upset that we did not meet.
The staff already knew we weren't going to have a quorum, so we couldn't have a meeting.
That's not really right. You cannot determine a quorum ahead of time. You can't determine quorum until the meeting time.
I'd have to look at Robert's rules to read up on that
Yes,
that'd be a
I
good
need
place
to
to
check
go.
that one out too. Okay.
you
Yes,
have
point,
to have-
point of order, maybe either Michelle or Mr. Watanabe could tell us what, I assume there is a
That's the point.
consistent,
There would have been
rule for all the advisory boards, whether.
I think in the future what we'll do is, and that's why I stayed here, we could have just shut the doors and turned off the lights. I made sure in case someone showed up, that includes the public, but we knew in advance that there wasn't gonna be a quorum. A lot of times, and we're now to the point where we don't have that, but when we used to have the videotaping and all this stuff, maintenance people, that still takes, in my eyes, I didn't wanna spend any more staff times, people's times, taxpayers' times, to stay around to say, okay, we can't have a meeting, but you're gonna pay all these people, cause they had to stick around. I said, you know what, you guys all go home, I'll stay here to make sure that if anybody shows up, one person from the public, and Andrew showed up, and we said you could've walked in, but we weren't gonna have a meeting because there wasn't a quorum. I let everybody go because I thought it was a waste of taxpayers' money to have all these government people here that shouldn't be here. They could go home, and plus it was a storm day too, I think it was. And so all those things said, you know what, we won't, I made a decision, and in the future, I'll make sure we keep the doors open, I'll make sure we'll have the people here. I think it's a huge waste of taxpayers' money to have people sticking around, we know for sure you won't have a quorum here.
Right.
That's just, as a director, I made that decision.
My question is, if any other way where she does not have email, that you can get in touch with Michelle with her, tell her that we don't have a quorum tonight, I already know now it's 3 o'clock.
I think her point is true. I think the
Telephone.
meeting should always go forward, but I think the issue would be if you know for sure you ain't gonna get the full quorum, like saying, we knew for sure it was 5 or more. Is it really worth the effort, and that's a call, I'm gonna ask city manager, is it really worth keeping all the other people and the lights and everything running?
Right.
I think it's a huge waste of taxpayers' money.
I agree.
You know, I don't mind me being here, cause see, I don't get paid once, but she's salary, all that time comes into place. I don't mind being here, and I was here. I'll make sure in the future I'll be here. But
And I didn't mind coming, by the way.
Well, it's just that, how many times has that happened? I don't even, I think maybe once in the whole 4 years I was on the board, 2.5, 3 years, whatever it was before, that we had to call a meeting, cancel a meeting because we didn't have a quorum.
I have, because I was wearing those other hats, I've had P and Z commission meetings where we knew for sure that planning and zoning commission, and that's a P and Z commission, we knew they weren't gonna be here. We had the meeting at, Bob was here, but then we just closed the meeting off because we don't have a quorum, you can't do anything, But, and it happens, quite often it happens. And they have a full commission of 7 too. We just couldn't get a quorum. They called in advance, we knew in advance. We actually told the applicants that, hey, you know, I hate to come from Tampa because we're not gonna have a quorum. And they
Wow.
pretty much said, we ain't gonna be there then.
Well,
Just
thank
make it
you.
fair.
It does make me feel better. I appreciate you telling me.
Always, I mean,
I do feel better. I really felt, you know, that it was a really breach, but it isn't, so thank you. I appreciate that. Thank you. All right.
Okay, items for next agenda.
All right, items for next agenda. Anybody? We're going to do still your,
I will talk to Jane Cheney and see where the flyers are.
okay, invasive plants,
and I'll get ahold of Vincent Park,
the sewer.
yeah, Indian River County.
I'll get you the name and phone number, all the email stuff.
And Jim, will you be doing the champion? You gonna bring a,
we're getting prices.
you'll get it all printed too? I mean, if you wanna print it, go ahead, no? I don't care. Cool. Okay.
Prices, so we can vote on it.
Okay. Bob, anything for the, Rose, anything? Gil? No. All right, now, I'll try to get with that lady too about the sewer, but we'll be at working different parts, so. Okay, so thank you. And then
Meeting is adjourned.
we're adjourned. The meeting's adjourned. Thank you.